Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the final game of the PokerStrategy.com TSL3 opening weekend. It's day 2. I'm DJ Wee, joined by Husky and Husky. We've got a Terran versus Zerg that is certainly bound to be a highly entertaining game. Both players very much a great amount of achievements, some of them in Korea, some of them in international competitions, but there's no doubt that we've got two very remarkable players going head-to-head in a round 1 TSL3 matchup that I just can't even believe is happening.
Talk about an epic way to end the evening, although there are going to be many more epic games, of course, in the future. However, this was one of the ones I was most excited about because it's always fun to see how well players that do well in the GSL, how good they do in these foreigner tournaments as well. This is more of a global tournament. The GSL, anyone can participate in, but you have to be in Korea to participate. So the majority of it, by default, is going to be Koreans. However, the TSL, while it does have Koreans, it also has all the top foreigners. And Jinro is one of those players living in Korea, playing very well. And I believe in an interview he said that he will stay in Korea as long as he has S-Class, which is the highest class you can get in the GOM League. So I just can't wait to see how well he plays in this. I think it's going to be, we mentioned this before, MorroW is going to be the underdog in this battle. Especially, I always think if you're going against a superior player, you're going to have a very difficult time competing with them in a macro-style map. And here we are on Tal'Darim Altar, and in the top left is mouz.MorroW, in the bottom left side is going to be Jinro, but again, a big macro map, which I think will favor a superior player in most cases.
Oh, wow. And Jinro's actually going to go ahead and go command center first in all of this. He racks up to 400 and drops it. And we see this Overlord getting over here very quickly. And, you know, likely this is going to be scouted as it comes up here. But you'll notice that MorroW went all the way around to the other side. So he decided to go clockwise in his scouting, and it is going to not pay off for him. He'll be the last one to find out about things. MorroW is going to get down his hatch. Pool is down as well. And there we see 2 barracks going down. So this is a crevasse, a map that maybe some of the foreigners in Korea or the Koreans might be more comfortable with because it has been a map that they've known about in the GSL pool for a while. We also saw it in the team leagues as well. So, you know, already I think we're seeing Jinro play to the map, which I really like.
Yeah, it is the Tal'Darim Altar, but the thing about this is that since Jinro went for that early expansion, it would have been super vulnerable to, say, a 6 or 7 pool, but he's playing to the map, like you mentioned, and he knows that on a large 4-player map like this, very unlikely that someone would rush him like that because those builds tend to not be effective, especially if the Terran does a standard wall-in. And so now he already has his orbital command on the way, both orbital commands actually going at about the same time, which is just something you do not see on maps that are not this large and this macro heavy. And the cool thing about it is you can get your wall in so quickly. You can see Jinro throwing down his 3rd racks right at his natural choke there. That drone has no hope of surviving, does get taken out. So just judging by the first couple of minutes here of this game, I think Jinro is going to be in as comfortable of a position as he can get. Not only can he deny scouting now, he can also decide to go mass marine. He can decide to tech up like crazy by grabbing all 4 gas. Really, he can go just about any build that isn't a proxy racks or something like that. And that sucks for MorroW because Zerg players always want to react to what their opponent is throwing at them. And at this point, he is playing completely blind.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see as we have a lot of Marines just coming out of there, and that's the cost effectiveness of having these barracks at the front. Meanwhile, MorroW only throwing out a couple of Zerglings, really focusing on droning right now, trying to get that second base up. He's got his first 4 lings out. Speed is underway. He's still getting gas at this time. He has queens at both locations now, so he's going to be in this opportunity to, you know, either continue to drone up, and yes, that's exactly what he'll do, is 9 drones coming out right now. He's going to wait for speed to finish. He does have a few Zerglings. He takes the tower with 1, and now he'll poke forward as well. See what he's got going on. He is going to see this tech lab coming down on this front reactor, and with this Marine out here, it'll quickly send these Lings running back home.
Now, I do like that he is putting the reactor, and it does show, I mean, the Zerg player is going to see that, MorroW will see it, but he already has the Marines there to guard it, and that's just one disadvantage of spawning where Jinro did, is your reactors and tech labs and stuff are on the right side, so they are more vulnerable. We do see Stimpack being researched the second that finishes, so that is telling me he is going to do some sort of Marine timing attack that is right when that expansion is kicking in, and he will have a nice handful of Marines that he can safely move out with. At the same time, though, we do have the factory getting a reactor as well as a starport going down, so maybe he's going to try and go for some reactored Marine drops or something like that. We'll just have to wait and see. So there are a lot of Zerglings actually on the field for MorroW, so he will have a lot to deal with this, and morphing in a lot of Banelings, I can only imagine, as the Baneling nest has finished at his natural. He is going to try and bust down this front door before Jinro has time to react to it.
Yeah, this will be really interesting because I'm not sure he's going to have a ton of units left over. He does have about 16 lings. We are going to have another Marine coming out here. He's just trying to inspect. Is anything coming that I should be ready for? Well, he does have 11 Banelings, and it'll be interesting to see exactly what he is going to throw those into right here. If he takes out the tech lab that's currently going with Stim, that would be a huge advantage for the Zerg player. And here he goes right now. Ling's getting into position. We see the Banelings moving forward. What will the Banelings go? Will they go after the tech lab? Yes, tech lab goes down. Oh my god, almost all of the...
It looks like all the barracks
SCV's coming out as well, and I cannot believe this. I think that MorroW may have actually busted this all up. These SCVs won't be able to sell. He's going to have to land those barracks, but they'll quickly get beat on by the Lings. Oh my god, MorroW successfully Baneling busts Jinro. What looked like such a phenomenal strat to go with here, which quickly flipped on a dime into MorroW's favor, and that worked out really well. Surprising and quick, but MorroW takes game one.
That was absolutely insane. I was sitting here scratching my head like, what does he plan to do with these Banelings? He's going up against a bunch of barracks, and even if he kills the barracks, there's so many Marines that can easily be microed to kill those Zerglings. However, he blew up those Banelings perfect and almost one-shot every single barracks. They were both only at 2 health bars. There was no way that Jinro could get down there to repair them, and then MorroW playing hyper-aggressive, which is pretty awesome. I gotta hand it to MorroW in this game. He played a hyper-aggressive style against someone who was turtling, especially as a Terran. That is not easy to do, so that takes big balls, and I gotta hand it to him. Really taking, I think, a lot of the fans by surprise, as well as Jinro himself. I do have the replay open, and he does have 3 medevacs on the way, as well as Hellions, and that +1 attack. So it was very obvious to me he was looking to move out within the next 60 to 80 seconds, and really MorroW just used that window, and the fact that Jinro was teching up really spelled demise for him. There was no bunkers in position. Jinro thought he was safe in his base. MorroW absolutely on fire. Cannot believe he took game number 1 in such a fashion, which is just epic. Again, in StarCraft 2, you can lose at any point of the game. There's no time that you are absolutely safe. MorroW showing us that, taking advantage of it, and what was an economic disadvantage, he turned into a military advantage and took the win. So a very interesting way to start this series between these two players.
And, you know, the other thing that I just want to throw out there, which was really impressive to me, because I would guarantee that 99% of those players probably would have seen their barracks die, is that Jinro lifted them, yes, on fire, but like that reactionary that he was handling his Marines and lifting off those barracks to try to save them and try to create any sort of opportunity for as he can. But MorroW just kind of overflowing his opponent there with aggression. And we have seen that aggressive Zerg style be very, you know, successful. We've also seen it fall on its face a lot. So while you do flip the coin in the air, in that case, it came up heads, and that's exactly what MorroW picked, and game 1 will go to him. And so I believe I may have said that that was on Crevasse. If I did, my bad. That was actually Tal'Darim Altar. So we are going to be moving on to Xel'Naga next, though, Husky, as we get ready for game 2. Now, Jinro, you know, was searching, kind of reaching, grabbing for that longer macro game. I wonder if we'll see some similar aggression out of MorroW after it had just worked, or if maybe on something like Xel'Naga, he would decide to hold back a little bit. If I had to think about it, you know, Xel'Naga is where I would guess he might want to get a little bit more aggressive, but he doesn't also have that giant choke to play around with his Banelings.
Yeah, and we're not going to go to commercial break. We are going to jump straight into the game,
okay.
But it is very important to note that Xel'Naga Cavern's a completely different map than the last map we just saw. The build that Jinro went, I don't want you guys playing on Steps of War and trying to open Command Center first. It only works on huge maps like that where you can easily wall off right when that Command Center is finishing up. And so I can almost guarantee, not to try and predict the future here, but I think Jinro's going to have to play more standard, kind of one-base play, eventually expanding, and then not just going for a super early Command Center like that.
Right.
And as you mentioned, this map is much better for harassment because for both players, there's going to be 3 entrances into your natural, as well as that destructible debris on the ramp opening up a 4th entrance. And so that is really good for Hellions, but it's also good for Zerglings if you can do a counterattack and catch them by surprise. So I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see Hellions very heavily used. We saw Jinro trying to use the Hellions in the last game. He did have them on the way for a potential Hellion drop, also in for dealing with that Baneling bust that he was going up against, but they just did not get out in time. So I think Jinro is going to play more standard here. I think he'll have much better success if he does play standard, and MorroW, I think, is pretty happy because I think he was at a huge disadvantage on that map. He was able to take it, which means that he has a very high chance of actually winning this series, and it's going to be up to Jinro not to mess up and just to make sure that no sneaky builds like that Baneling bust happen again.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see if Jinro can bring it back. There's a high potential here for another matchup that goes all the way to 3 games. Of course, MorroW could close it out in 2. We're going to find out here in just a moment as Game 2 of TLAF Liquid Jinro and mouz.MorroW continues.